Exploring CECOT Prison, the secrets behind the mega prison. Welcome to today's video, where we take an exclusive deep dive into one of the most infamous prisons in the world. Located in El Salvador, the Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo is not just another high-security prison. It is a symbol of the government's radical approach to dealing with the country's gang violence problem. But what exactly makes CECOT so controversial? And why has it become a focal point in international discussions about human rights, justice, and the balance of power? In this video, we will explore the secrets behind CECOT, looking at its architecture, the harsh conditions inside, and the impact it has had on El Salvador and beyond. CECOT, often referred to as the mega prison, was constructed with one primary goal: to house thousands of gang leaders and members involved in the country's brutal war on gangs. Opened in 2023 under the administration of President Nayib Bukele, the prison is part of his larger plan to dismantle the country's notorious gang organizations, such as MS-13 and Barrio 18. While many see CECOT as a necessary tool in fighting crime and restoring order, others argue that its extreme measures violate basic human rights and principles of justice. With its massive capacity, state-of-the-art security systems and draconian policies, CECOT stands as a powerful testament to El Salvador's hardline approach to criminality. However, it also raises crucial questions. Can a prison like this be justified? How does it affect those within its walls? And more importantly, is it the future of criminal justice, or a step too far? Join us as we peel back the layers of this mega prison, exploring what lies beneath its towering walls and controversial security measures. In this video, we will give you a behind-the-scenes look at CECOT, a prison that's more than just a place of confinement. It's a battleground in the ongoing war against gang violence. Let's dive in. The architecture, CECOT. When you think of a typical prison, what comes to mind? Barbed wire fences, concrete walls, and minimalistic cells. But CECOT, the infamous Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo, is far from typical. Its design is one of the most sophisticated and intimidating in the world, crafted to hold thousands of El Salvador's most dangerous gang members and impose an iron-fisted control over them. Location and design. CECOT is strategically situated in the Tecoluca region, roughly 70 kilometers southeast of San Salvador, El Salvador's capital. The prison's location is not accidental. It is placed in a remote area, isolated from major urban centers. This serves multiple purposes. It limits the potential for external interventions, reduces the risk of gang influence from outside, and ensures that the prison's presence is felt as a constant reminder of the government's stance on crime. The prison complex itself covers a vast expanse of about 1.7 million square meters, an area large enough to fit a small city. The sheer scale of CECOT is one of its most notable features. It is designed not just to incarcerate, but to completely isolate and control its inmates, many of whom are the leaders of some of the most feared gangs in the Americas. Size and layout. CECOT is not just a typical prison facility, it is a mega prison, built with a capacity to hold over 40,000 inmates. Inside, the layout is designed for maximum efficiency in maintaining control. The prison is divided into multiple zones that can accommodate different types of inmates. These zones include housing units for gang members, isolation areas for high-risk prisoners, and specialized sections for those who might pose a significant threat to the security of the facility. One of the most important architectural features is the cell design. Each individual cell is constructed with a minimalistic approach, designed to hold between 65 and 70 prisoners at a time. Each of these cells is extremely cramped, with little room for comfort. The beds are metal bunks that offer no cushioning, and there are only basic amenities, such as a couple of shared toilets and sinks. The design of these cells reflects the overarching goal of isolation and control. The inmates are not meant to be comfortable, and their daily lives are highly restricted. Security features. What really sets CECOT apart from other prisons is its state-of-the-art security infrastructure. CECOT is not just a prison, it's a fortress designed to ensure that there is no chance of escape and that the inmates are kept under constant surveillance. The prison is equipped with an advanced surveillance system which includes high-tech cameras, motion detectors, and face recognition technology to monitor every inch of the facility. These systems are connected to a central control room, where prison officials can keep track of all movements within the prison walls. Another prominent feature is the watchtowers scattered throughout the prison. These towers give guards a 360-degree view of the entire facility, allowing them to keep a vigilant eye on both the inmates and any potential threats. In addition to the towers, the prison is surrounded by high concrete walls that are fortified with razor wire and electric fences. The combination of these security measures makes escape nearly impossible. But it doesn't stop there. CECOT also utilizes drones to patrol the perimeter of the prison and keep an eye on any suspicious activity. This drone system adds another layer of high-tech surveillance that is almost unprecedented in other prisons around the world. Inside the prison, inmates are constantly monitored, and every movement is tracked. Security guards at CECOT are armed with advanced weapons and wear bulletproof vests, ready for any potential disturbances or riots. Their role is not only to maintain order inside but also to prevent external influence, particularly from gang leaders or political figures who may attempt to communicate with prisoners. In addition, CECOT is patrolled by military personnel, making it one of the few prisons in the world where military presence is integrated directly into the facility's daily operations. Restricted communication. One of the key goals of CECOT is to eliminate all forms of communication between inmates and the outside world. To achieve this, the prison has strict control over communication channels. Inmates are forbidden from accessing cell phones, computers, and even newspapers, which are often used to communicate with their gangs or the public. Visitation is also heavily restricted. Families and lawyers are not easily able to access the inmates, and legal proceedings are often held via video conference. This is a method designed to limit any chances of influencing external events or rallying support from outside. The cells themselves are designed to isolate inmates from one another and prevent any form of organization within the prison walls. Despite this, gang leaders have been known to continue operating their criminal empires even from behind bars. To counter this, CECOT places violent and influential prisoners in solitary confinement or blocks them off from their previous contacts. The iron grip of CECOT's architecture. The architecture of CECOT is not merely about functionality, it is a representation of the government's iron-fisted approach to controlling crime in El Salvador. With its massive size, advanced security systems, and extremely restricted living conditions, CECOT serves as a stark warning to anyone considering crossing the line into serious crime. This section of the video serves to underline just how much thought went into the design and layout of CECOT to ensure that the prison operates as efficiently and securely as possible. From its high-tech surveillance systems to its physical layout, CECOT is built with one primary goal in mind: to ensure the complete and utter control over its inmates. The inmates of CECOT. One of the most controversial aspects of CECOT is the type of individuals it houses. This mega prison was specifically designed to isolate and control El Salvador's most dangerous criminals, particularly gang members from organizations like MS-13 and Barrio 18, which have terrorized the country for decades. But what does life behind the walls of CECOT really look like for these inmates? And who exactly are the prisoners housed in this fortress of isolation? Types of prisoners held at CECOT. CECOT was established as part of President Nayib Bukele's broader strategy to combat gang violence in El Salvador. The main target for the prison's strict policies and tight security are the leaders and members of the country's most notorious gangs, such as MS-13, Mara Salvatrucha, Barrio 18, and various other criminal groups. These gangs have been responsible for an alarming number of violent crimes, extortion, drug trafficking, and murders across El Salvador. CECOT serves as a high-security facility where these gang members are kept separate from the general population, ensuring they cannot continue to control criminal activities from within the prison walls. The prison is designed to house the highest-ranking members of these gangs, people who wield significant power and influence, even from behind bars. As a result, many inmates at CECOT are not just criminals, they are masterminds who continue to lead their organizations, orchestrating operations even from their isolated cells. The prisoners held here are often ruthless leaders, responsible for orchestrating murders, violent extortion schemes, and even international trafficking rings. They are often the most hardened and dangerous criminals in the country, many of whom have been involved in criminal enterprises for years. CECOT's primary function is to contain and neutralize these figures, breaking their chains of influence over their gangs. Life behind bars. Life in CECOT is harsh, to say the least. The design of the prison is specifically tailored to break any sense of community or collaboration among inmates. Each cell is cramped, minimalist, and designed to restrict movement and comfort. These cells, designed to hold 65 to 70 prisoners, are devoid of basic amenities. There are no beds, only metal bunks that are barely enough to sleep on, and the shared toilets offer little in terms of privacy or comfort. Prisoners have limited access to food, water, and even medical care. While CECOT is a high-security facility, there are no luxuries or privileges for inmates. Meals are simple and nutritious, but inmates report that the quality is poor, with beans and rice being staples of their daily diet. Inmates are not allowed to buy extra food, and there is little opportunity to engage in recreational activities or sports. The harsh conditions are designed to make the prison feel like a real punishment, not a place where prisoners can live comfortably. One of the most significant aspects of life inside CECOT is the lack of social interaction. Prisoners are isolated from each other, and any attempts at organizing or collaborating are quickly shut down by the authorities. Inmates rarely see their fellow prisoners unless they are being moved between cells or during rare, strictly controlled activities. This social isolation is one of the core components of the prison's strategy. It prevents the formation of any alliances or organized resistance inside. Inmates have limited access to communication with the outside world. Visitation rights are heavily restricted, and phone calls are monitored closely. Inmates are often unable to contact their families or lawyers easily, which further exacerbates the sense of isolation. Those with legal proceedings are usually only able to attend video hearings, where they rarely see their defense lawyers in person. As a result, for many inmates, the only connection to the outside world is through the prison authorities themselves. The psychological toll of isolation. The extreme isolation imposed by CECOT takes a significant psychological toll on the inmates. Living in solitary confinement or in conditions where interaction is minimal leads to severe mental health issues. Depression, anxiety, and paranoia are common among inmates, and the lack of meaningful contact with other humans only exacerbates these issues. Many gang members at CECOT are used to being in positions of power, commanding large groups of people and controlling illicit activities from behind the scenes. For them, the sudden shift to complete isolation can be a profound shock. Those who once thrived on the constant hustle and bustle of gang life are now forced to face the reality of their actions, and many prisoners report feeling a deep sense of loss, not just of freedom but also of their sense of identity and purpose. The mental strain from the isolation can lead to erratic behavior. Some prisoners experience hallucinations and delusions due to the prolonged periods without human contact. Others may struggle to keep a sense of time, as the lack of windows and the absence of regular routines can make the days blend into each other. How gang leaders operate from inside. Despite the rigorous measures taken to isolate and contain gang leaders, gang influence still runs deep inside CECOT. Many inmates, particularly those who are high-ranking members of violent gangs, continue to run their criminal operations from within the prison. These gang leaders maintain connections with their fellow gang members, issuing orders and organizing criminal activities through coded messages, intermediaries, and even corrupt prison staff. The challenge for prison officials is not just containing the violence within the prison, but also preventing it from spilling out into the rest of the country. Gang leaders have been known to send messages through their lawyers, family members, or even other prisoners, ordering hits, extortion schemes, or drug shipments to be carried out. Despite the prison's advanced security systems and efforts to restrict communication, gang leaders are still able to maintain their power and control. They find creative ways to bypass security measures, using underground channels, coded language, and even social media platforms to communicate. This ongoing issue is a testament to the resilience and adaptability of criminal organizations, even when their leaders are behind bars. The inmates who shape CECOT's reputation. CECOT is not just a prison, it is a symbol of the power that gang leaders hold over their communities and the nation. The prison was designed to contain and neutralize some of the most dangerous individuals in El Salvador, but even within these high-security walls, the influence of criminal gangs continues to thrive. Life for the inmates inside is harsh, but the psychological toll, isolation, and ongoing control of gang operations make CECOT much more than a typical correctional facility. It's a microcosm of the broader battle between crime and law enforcement, where the lines between punishment and control blur. Security and control measures. One of the defining characteristics of CECOT is its uncompromising security. The prison is not only designed to confine dangerous criminals, but also to maintain absolute control over every aspect of the inmates' lives. The security measures implemented in CECOT are some of the most advanced and comprehensive in the world, making it nearly impossible for inmates to escape or continue their criminal enterprises from behind bars. In this section, we will explore the high-tech surveillance systems, the role of military and police forces, and the strict control protocols that make CECOT one of the most secure prisons globally. Total control: how CECOT maintains authority. At the heart of CECOT's security strategy is its focus on total control over the inmates. The prison is designed to isolate prisoners from one another, limit their movements, and prevent them from forming alliances or orchestrating criminal activities from within the prison walls. One of the primary security features of CECOT is its segregation of prisoners. Inmates are housed in units designed to prevent interaction, especially among gang leaders. This isolation is not only physical but also social. The housing units are carefully monitored to ensure that gang leaders cannot continue to operate their criminal enterprises. Prison staff are trained to prevent inmates from passing messages, coordinating activities, or having unauthorized meetings. Even phone calls, emails, and letters are scrutinized to eliminate any potential for communication with the outside world. In addition to this, solitary confinement is used to further restrict communication between inmates. Prisoners who are deemed especially dangerous or influential are placed in solitary cells, where they have limited or no contact with others. This strategy is meant to break down any sense of community and prevent gang leaders from continuing to command their operations. CECOT's security teams also implement a highly controlled movement schedule for inmates. Every step an inmate takes is monitored, and they are often moved under heavily armed guard from one area of the prison to another. This level of control ensures that inmates cannot meet with their gang members or organize any form of rebellion. The technology used in CECOT. CECOT's reliance on high-tech surveillance systems is one of its defining features. Unlike many prisons that rely primarily on physical security measures like walls and guards, CECOT uses advanced technology to monitor both the interior and exterior of the prison. This technology is crucial in maintaining order and preventing any form of escape, smuggling, or unauthorized communication. Surveillance cameras and drones. CECOT is equipped with a vast network of high-definition surveillance cameras placed throughout the prison, including in cells, hallways, and common areas. These cameras are monitored 24/7 by prison officials, and they can track every movement of the inmates. The cameras provide real-time monitoring, allowing prison staff to quickly identify any signs of unrest or illicit activities. In addition to the cameras, CECOT employs drones to patrol the exterior of the prison. These drones are equipped with cameras and infrared technology, providing a bird's-eye view of the prison's perimeter. They are able to detect movement, monitor for potential escape attempts, and even track the movements of people approaching the prison. This aerial surveillance serves as a deterrent for anyone thinking about attempting to breach the prison's defenses. Face recognition technology. Another high-tech feature of CECOT is its use of face recognition technology. This system scans and identifies inmates, staff, and visitors, ensuring that no unauthorized individuals enter the prison. The face recognition software can cross-reference the data with databases of known criminals, adding an additional layer of security. Additionally, this technology helps ensure that gang leaders are not disguised or trying to escape under the radar. Since CECOT houses such high-profile prisoners, face recognition is an essential component of its security system. Body scanners and metal detectors. CECOT also makes use of body scanners and metal detectors at key entry points. These devices are used to prevent contraband from entering the prison. Family members, lawyers, and visitors are subjected to strict security checks before they are allowed to enter. Prison staff and inmates are regularly scanned to ensure that no one is attempting to smuggle in weapons, drugs, or communication devices. This level of scrutiny is not just about preventing escapes, it's also about maintaining order within the prison. Inmates are constantly monitored for signs of resistance or attempts to communicate with the outside world, which could fuel unrest or gang activities. The role of military and police. Security at CECOT is not solely dependent on prison guards. The military and police forces also play an integral role in maintaining order. The presence of military personnel is something that sets CECOT apart from other prisons. Soldiers are stationed inside and around the perimeter, creating an added layer of security. They are not just there to provide backup in case of riots, but are actively involved in the day-to-day security operations of the prison. The military's involvement helps ensure that any serious disruptions are dealt with swiftly and decisively. The guards in CECOT are well trained to handle high-risk situations, but the military provides the necessary force to subdue any large-scale confrontations. The military is also called upon during high-stakes operations, such as when a riot or escape attempt occurs. On top of this, police forces are assigned to patrol the prison grounds and provide additional support. These law enforcement officers are responsible for monitoring the prison's internal operations and ensuring that order is maintained at all times. The coordination between the police, military, and prison guards ensures that no individual can disrupt the functioning of the prison or continue to control criminal activities from within. This joint force also minimizes the chance of any outside influence reaching the prisoners. The heart of control. Perhaps the most significant aspect of CECOT measures is the total restriction of communication. Communication with the outside world is one of the primary ways that gang leaders continue to operate their criminal enterprises. CECOT has implemented several systems to completely cut off prisoners from their external networks. Monitoring inmate communication. CECOT uses advanced monitoring techniques to ensure that no inmates can secretly communicate with the outside world. This includes intercepting letters, phone calls, and even messages sent through third parties. The prison is equipped with a team of communications experts who sift through all correspondence to detect hidden messages or coded language that could be used for illicit purposes. While some prisons allow inmates to send and receive letters or make phone calls, CECOT limits these privileges drastically. This is done not just for security, but to prevent any further extension of gang control from inside the walls of the prison. Prisoner privacy and control. CECOT also places heavy restrictions on the privacy of its inmates. There is little to no opportunity for inmates to have private meetings or discussions with visitors. All visits are monitored closely, and any attempt to pass messages or make unauthorized contact is severely punished. This control over privacy ensures that inmates are stripped of their ability to influence the outside world. The iron grip of CECOT security. The The security and control measures employed at CECOT are some of the most advanced and sophisticated in the world. From high-tech surveillance systems to the constant presence of military forces, CECOT operates like a fortress, where every movement is monitored, every communication is scrutinized, and every inmate is kept under constant control. These measures are designed not just to confine but to completely neutralize the power of El Salvador's most dangerous criminals, preventing them from continuing their activities from behind bars. Despite the effectiveness of these systems, however, the question remains, is the cost to human rights and justice worth the control they provide? Controversies surrounding CECOT. The creation of CECOT, Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo, has sparked intense debate, both within El Salvador and internationally. While the prison is lauded by some as a necessary measure to curb the rampant gang violence that has plagued the country, it has also been the subject of widespread criticism for its human rights violations and controversial practices. This section will explore the main controversies surrounding CECOT, including human rights abuses, legal concerns, and the global reaction to the prison's existence and operations. Human rights violations. One of the most significant criticisms of CECOT comes from various human rights organizations that have raised alarms over the harsh conditions within the prison and the treatment of its inmates. Organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have expressed serious concerns regarding the violation of basic human rights, particularly the lack of access to legal counsel, inadequate medical care, and the overall inhumane conditions of confinement. Overcrowding and poor conditions. Despite the massive size of CECOT, the prison has faced overcrowding issues, with many cells designed to hold 65 to 70 inmates being packed with even more. The result is an environment where basic human dignity is compromised. The cells are cramped, with limited access to clean water, sanitation facilities, and adequate sleeping arrangements. Inmates are forced to endure extreme isolation, which takes a severe toll on their mental health. Many prisoners report feeling the effects of the lack of privacy and basic amenities, leading to depression, anxiety, and other psychological disorders. Prisoners in solitary confinement, in particular, are subjected to severe isolation, with no opportunity for human interaction beyond the rare prison visits. The psychological impact of these conditions has led to calls for prison reform, as it is argued that the treatment of prisoners at CECOT could amount to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment, which is a violation of international human rights standards. Lack of access to legal representation. Another critical human rights concern is the denial of access to legal representation. Inmates at CECOT are often denied regular access to lawyers, and when they are allowed to meet with legal representatives, those meetings are closely monitored or restricted. Many prisoners report that they are unable to properly defend themselves in court due to the lack of access to legal counsel. This has led to accusations that CECOT operates as a form of extrajudicial punishment, bypassing the legal rights of the accused. While CECOT's goal is to isolate and neutralize gang leaders, the lack of due process for many inmates raises serious concerns about justice. The use of video hearings for many legal proceedings limits the ability for meaningful legal representation, leading to claims of unfair trials and violations of constitutional rights. Legal and ethical concerns. The establishment and operation of CECOT have raised several legal and ethical issues, both within El Salvador and on the international stage. While the prison is legal within the framework of El Salvador's laws, its existence poses critical questions about the balance between security and justice, and the ethical implications of such a high-security facility. Due process and rule of law. At the core of the legal concerns surrounding CECOT is the issue of due process. Critics argue that the prison's methods, such as mass incarcerations and lack of judicial oversight, undermine the fundamental principle of justice. The quick-to-judge, trial-by-media mentality surrounding the prison's creation raises doubts about whether inmates are being justly prosecuted or if they are simply being punished without proper trial. The pre-trial detention of suspects and the presumption of guilt before trial directly contradict the legal principle of presumed innocence, which forms the foundation of most democratic justice systems. Another ethical concern is whether the conditions inside CECOT comply with international conventions on prison conditions. According to international law, such as the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners, prisoners are entitled to humane treatment. The overcrowded cells, restricted access to food, and lack of medical care inside CECOT violate these minimum standards, leading to criticism from human rights bodies worldwide. The use of military and police in civilian prisons. CECOT also presents a legal challenge with the use of military personnel within the prison, as this practice may be seen as an infringement on civil liberties. The military is typically not involved in the administration of civilian prisons, as its role is usually confined to defense and national security operations. The presence of military personnel in a civilian prison setting blurs the lines between civilian law enforcement and military control, raising concerns about the militarization of the criminal justice system. The increased use of police and military units in prisons like CECOT may set a dangerous precedent, shifting the power balance between the state and its citizens. This shift can also undermine civilian oversight of the prison system and may lead to greater abuse of power in the future. The global reaction. Internationally, the creation and operation of CECOT have prompted concerns from various governments, human rights organizations, and international bodies. Many countries have criticized El Salvador's hardline approach to gang violence, viewing the prison as emblematic of an authoritarian turn in the country's governance. The United Nations and international human rights groups. The United Nations and Amnesty International have called for a review of CECOT's practices, urging El Salvador to ensure that prisoners' rights are respected and that the government complies with international human rights laws. The UN Special Rapporteur on Torture has voiced concern over the conditions inside CECOT, particularly the use of solitary confinement and the overcrowding of cells, both of which are classified as forms of torture under international law. Human rights groups argue that while the prison's purpose is to combat gang violence, the methods employed by the government risk creating a culture of impunity and furthering the erosion of human rights in the country. They emphasize that while security measures may be necessary, they must not come at the expense of basic human dignity. The United States and its influence. The United States, which has a long history of involvement in Central American security, has also expressed concerns about CECOT. While some U.S. officials support the idea of cracking down on gang violence, they have urged El Salvador to reconsider the methods used to combat the issue. The U.S. Department of State has issued statements warning against the overuse of military force in civilian justice systems, which they argue may lead to human rights abuses and undermine democratic norms. The United States is also concerned about the deportation of criminals to CECOT. Several individuals have been sent from the U.S. to El Salvador, some with questionable legal cases, further fueling accusations of extrajudicial punishment within the prison. The fine line between justice and authoritarianism. CECOT represents a critical juncture in El Salvador's battle against gang violence, but it also embodies the dangerous balance between security and human rights. While it may be effective in incapacitating dangerous criminals, the prison's harsh conditions, legal shortcomings, and ethical violations raise fundamental questions about the future of justice in the country. El Salvador's success in combating gang violence should not come at the cost of its commitment to human rights, due process, and international law. As CECOT continues to function as one of the world's most infamous prisons, the global community must carefully monitor its operation to ensure that it does not become a model for authoritarian rule and human rights abuses. The impact of CECOT on El Salvador. The establishment of CECOT has had profound effects on El Salvador, both in terms of crime reduction and its impact on national security. The prison, while a response to the country's dire disruin with gang violence, has also triggered discussions on the balance between maintaining law and order and upholding fundamental human rights. In this section, we'll explore how CECOT has impacted El Salvador's crime rates, public opinion, and political discourse. Crime and gang violence. CECOT was constructed as a central component of President Nayib Bukele's anti-gang strategy. El Salvador has struggled with one of the highest crime rates in the world, with gang violence contributing to the country's pervasive instability. Gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 have been responsible for widespread violence, extortion, and killings, not just in El Salvador, but across Central America. These criminal organizations have infiltrated every aspect of life in the country, including law enforcement, businesses, and even political circles. Since the opening of CECOT, there have been notable reductions in crime. As part of Bukele's war on gangs, the mass incarceration of gang members, many of whom are housed in CECOT, has led to fewer murders and a decline in gang-related activity in certain areas of the country. The prison's role in isolating and neutralizing gang leaders has had a visible impact on the overall security landscape of El Salvador. By removing these key figures from the streets and limiting their ability to lead and organize, CECOT has contributed to a temporary stabilization in certain regions. The prison's large capacity to hold thousands of inmates has meant that gang operations, especially at the top levels, have been severely disrupted. This, in turn, has reduced the overall reach of gang violence in the country. President Bukele has used these figures as part of his political narrative to showcase that his government is successfully combating crime. However, the prison's impact on long-term crime trends remains uncertain. While immediate reductions in violence are notable, critics argue that this repressive approach may not address the root causes of gang violence, such as poverty, lack of education, and weak social systems. There is also the question of whether gangs will adapt to the prison's containment strategies or find new ways to operate. Public opinion and national security. CECOT's creation and the broader anti-gang policies of the Bukele administration have sparked significant public debate in El Salvador. On one hand, the public safety improvements and the apparent reduction in crime have earned the government significant popular support. According to recent surveys, President Bukele enjoys approval ratings upwards of 80%, with many Salvadorans feeling that the hardline approach is necessary to restore order to the country. For many El Salvadorans, the fear of gang violence has been a part of everyday life for years. Families live in constant fear of extortion, kidnappings, and violence. CECOT, as a visible manifestation of the government's commitment to protecting citizens, has given many Salvadorans a sense of hope that the government is finally taking action to address the gang problem. However, the prison's methods have been highly polarizing. While some Salvadorans praise CECOT for its tough stance, others see it as an overreach that threatens basic civil liberties. The conditions inside CECOT, including overcrowding, isolation, and limited access to legal counsel, have raised significant concerns among human rights organizations. Critics argue that while crime reduction is important, the means by which this is achieved must not infringe on fundamental rights. Despite the criticisms, many Salvadorans still support the government's approach, believing that the country's security is paramount. For them, the short-term benefits of reduced violence outweigh the ethical concerns. This perspective has reinforced Bukele's mandate, giving him the political capital to continue his anti-crime agenda and expand his control over the prison system. Political implications. The establishment of CECOT and its role in El Salvador's security strategy has significantly influenced the country's political landscape. Under Bukele's leadership, El Salvador has seen a shift towards authoritarianism, with a centralization of power that has led to concerns about the erosion of democratic checks and balances. Critics argue that the militarization of the prison system, as well as the government's heavy-handed tactics, represent a dangerous move away from democratic norms. CECOT has played a key role in shaping the political discourse in El Salvador. Bukele has positioned himself as the champion of national security, using the prison and its success as evidence of his ability to combat corruption, disarm gangs, and protect citizens. The public support for his tough stance has allowed him to consolidate power and bypass traditional democratic channels. Internationally, El Salvador's shift towards a tougher, less democratic approach has led to increased scrutiny. Countries like the United States have voiced concerns over the human rights abuses taking place inside CECOT and its broader implications for rule of law. Some critics worry that the prison's success in reducing crime could set a dangerous precedent for other countries, encouraging similar authoritarian measures that could erode civil rights. On the other hand, government supporters argue that such tactics are necessary for a country that has been ravaged by decades of gang violence and corruption. Bukele's authoritarian tendencies are often justified as a means of achieving the greater good, reducing crime and restoring national security. CECOT's role in El Salvador's future. CECOT represents both a solution and a challenge for El Salvador. While it has contributed to the reduction of gang violence, it has also raised significant questions about the long-term consequences of such extreme measures. The prison's impact on crime rates, public opinion, and political discourse reflects the deep tension between maintaining order and respecting fundamental human rights. Whether or not the approach taken at CECOT is sustainable remains to be seen, but for now it remains a central piece of El Salvador's ongoing battle with crime. The future of CECOT. As CECOT continues to play a crucial role in El Salvador's war on gangs, its future remains uncertain. The prison, with its advanced security systems and harsh conditions, has been effective in containing some of the most dangerous criminals in the country, but it also raises important questions about the sustainability of its methods and the long-term impact on both criminal justice and human rights. In this section, we'll explore the potential future of CECOT, examining whether it will continue to function as a key element in the fight against organized crime and the potential reforms that may shape its trajectory. Is CECOT sustainable? One of the critical questions surrounding CECOT is whether its harsh tactics and massive scale can be sustained over time. While the prison has achieved short-term success in reducing gang violence and neutralizing powerful criminal leaders, the question remains whether such an approach is long-term viable. Overcrowding and strain on resources. CECOT's massive capacity is both a strength and a vulnerability. While it was designed to house up to 40,000 inmates, overcrowding remains a significant issue. With tens of thousands of gang members locked up, maintaining security while providing adequate living conditions for such a large population is no small feat. Overcrowding leads to increased strain on prison resources, including food, medical care, and staffing. These issues could worsen over time as more individuals are incarcerated under the country's ongoing anti-gang policies. Furthermore, the prison's massive infrastructure requires substantial financial resources to operate. Whether the government can continue to fund CECOT without diverting resources from other important social and infrastructure programs is a challenge that may become more pronounced as time goes on. The long-term financial sustainability of such a prison, especially with its need for constant upgrades and maintenance, could become a major concern. Adapting to new gang tactics. Another challenge for CECOT is the adaptive nature of criminal organizations. While the prison has been effective in isolating gang leaders, gangs are known to be resilient and inventive. It's possible that as law enforcement and prisons become more sophisticated, criminal organizations will find new ways to operate from within the prison walls or even remotely, bypassing the prison's control mechanisms. For example, some gang leaders have continued their operations from solitary confinement or by using smuggled technology to communicate with the outside world. As gang networks evolve, CECOT may face the dilemma of keeping pace with increasingly sophisticated methods of communication and criminal coordination. The question remains, can a prison like CECOT truly contain an ever-evolving, deeply entrenched criminal culture, or will gangs find ways to exploit its weaknesses? Calls for reform. While CECOT has been largely successful in disrupting gang operations, its harsh conditions and the potential for human rights abuses have led to growing calls for reform. International human rights organizations, as well as some Salvadoran citizens, argue that prison reform is necessary to ensure that the country's pursuit of security does not come at the expense of its commitment to justice and human rights. Improving conditions for inmates. Reform advocates argue that while the government's goal of neutralizing gang influence is legitimate, the conditions inside CECOT must be improved to align with international human rights standards. This includes addressing issues such as overcrowding, lack of adequate health care, and mental health treatment. Implementing changes such as improved living conditions and providing access to legal representation could mitigate some of the ethical concerns surrounding the prison. Additionally, a more humane approach to incarceration could foster the rehabilitation of inmates, particularly those who may have been involved in gang activities due to circumstances like poverty or lack of education. By offering education, job training, and psychological support, CECOT could move towards a more balanced approach, where retribution is paired with rehabilitation. Transparency and accountability. Another area of reform is the transparency of CECOT's operations. Calls for greater oversight by independent bodies, including human rights organizations, have grown louder, ensuring that prison staff are held accountable for their actions and that inmates' rights are respected can help reduce allegations of corruption, abuse, and neglect. Reforming the prison's management could help improve public perception, both domestically and internationally, by demonstrating that the government is committed to justice and not simply maintaining control through extreme measures. Will CECOT be a model for other nations? Another important consideration is whether CECOT's model will inspire other countries facing similar challenges with gang violence and organized crime. While El Salvador's approach has garnered both praise and criticism, some nations may view CECOT as an example of a successful high-security prison system that can eliminate gang power. Exporting the CECOT model. Countries in Central America, where gang violence is a major issue, may look to CECOT as a potential solution to their own security problems. The success of CECOT in reducing crime within the prison walls may lead other governments to adopt similar prison-based strategies, with the idea that isolating and controlling gang leaders can dismantle criminal organizations. This could set a dangerous precedent if these countries do not balance security with respect for human rights. On the other hand, international criticism may prevent the widespread adoption of the CECOT model. Nations concerned about human rights may view the prison as a warning example of the dangers of unchecked authoritarianism in the pursuit of law and order. If CECOT's methods are deemed too extreme or inhumane, other countries might hesitate to implement similar systems. CECOT's future and its long-term impact. The future of CECOT is uncertain. While it has been successful in achieving some of its goals, namely containing and neutralizing gang leaders, its sustainability and long-term impact on El Salvador's criminal justice system remain in question. Overcrowding, financial constraints, and the adaptive nature of criminal organizations pose significant challenges that may test the prison's effectiveness in the years to come. Additionally, calls for reform will likely continue to grow as human rights organizations push for changes in prison conditions and legal processes. How El Salvador balances its need for security with respect for justice and human rights will determine whether CECOT continues to be a symbol of the country's fight against crime, or whether it becomes a warning example of the dangers of authoritarian control. As the war on gangs continues, the future of CECOT will undoubtedly evolve, and the lessons learned from its operation could influence not just El Salvador, but also other nations grappling with similar issues of gang violence, security, and criminal justice. Conclusion. CECOT, as one of the most secure and controversial prisons in the world, stands as a powerful symbol of El Salvador's war on gangs. It was designed to isolate and neutralize some of the country's most dangerous criminals, many of whom are leaders of the infamous MS-13 and Barrio 18 gangs. While it has made strides in reducing gang violence and disrupting criminal operations, the prison's methods raise significant concerns about human rights, due process, and ethical governance. The mass incarceration and harsh conditions inside CECOT have sparked a fierce debate about the balance between national security and the protection of fundamental freedoms. Critics argue that while reducing crime is crucial, authoritarian tactics and inhumane treatment of prisoners can undermine the very justice system they are meant to support. Overcrowding, mental health challenges, and limited access to legal representation are some of the key issues that need addressing if CECOT is to move towards a more just and humane correctional model. The future of CECOT is uncertain. Will it continue to be an effective tool in El Salvador's fight against gang violence, or will its extreme measures ultimately lead to its downfall? The ongoing challenges of overcrowding, sustainability, and gang adaptation must be addressed for CECOT to remain a viable solution. More importantly, the calls for reform and better human rights practices will determine whether CECOT will evolve into a more balanced, rehabilitative system or remain a symbol of authoritarian control. As El Salvador moves forward in its struggle to balance crime control and human rights, the lessons learned from CECOT could reshape the future of prison systems not just in Central America, but worldwide.